Good evening, everyone. Good evening. We have hi Carol. We have so much going on tonight that we're going to start a little early. So Steve, if you would come up and lead us in a prayer.
Good evening. We can just bow our heads for a moment. Father God, we thank you for this opportunity to gather together. We ask that you bless our work, that you will lead us in your ways and help us as we move forward and try to regain our country for your works. Father, we just ask you watch over us this evening, keep us safe, bring those who are on their way here safely, and just bless this food this evening. In your Son's name, amen.
Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
And if we would all rise.
That's better.
There we go. Front and center. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. Well, thank you for coming to our third meeting of the month. I'm sorry, of the year, thank you. I think it's going to be one of those nights. Well, again, like I said, we have a lot to go over this month. Our guest speaker, Mr. Pizzuto, am I pronouncing his name correctly? Pizzuto. He is actually blessed. He's down at CPAC in D.C. Yes, he's one of the fortunate ones. And as Eric Boland said tonight on the 5, that would be our Woodstock. So hopefully he's having fun. Did you all hear what happened to Condoleezza Rice at Rutgers? Anybody here an alumni of Rutgers? Give him a call. 8 white professors deemed her unfit to speak. Snooki was able to speak last year, and I think she made $32,000. But the esteemed Condoleezza Rice, Secretary of State, not fit to speak at Rutgers. Shame on Rutgers.
Racist.
Racist, you got it, Bob.
They hate women too.
They hate. Hey, speaking about racist, we attended the Belmar St. Patrick's Day Parade. Yeah. We had a great time. We had a terrific time. However, right in front of us stood men who were reenacting the Civil War. They were the Yanks. And one of them turned around, sees us, and does this. So we're all waving, giving him smiles. So he yells out, because we're smiling at him, we're not saying anything. He yells out, "You're a bunch of Nazis," and he does a salute. So I yell over, "Meet my good friend Bob Goldberg." He did, this guy, I mean, he was all over the place, typical liberal, ignorant guy. When he yelled out that we were a bunch of Nazis, I said, "Hey, don't you know your history?" And he yells out, "I'm wearing a uniform, aren't I?" Which meant nothing. But when we
The wrong uniform.
Yeah, when we introduced him to Bob, he's like, "Oh, I'll bet you all never fought in a war." He was all over the place. He had absolutely nothing of consequence to say, and that is the left. Perfect example. But for the rest of the walk, we had, again, lots of cheers, lots of "we support you." Once again, who's the artist, Jerry, who keeps inviting us?
Stephen Lacko.
Stephen Lacko. Every year, a special invitation. So we're cutting through that curtain there, and we're getting to some people. But it was a lot of fun. Next year, we hope that many more will join us. Okay, I promised Marlene that I would get her right up in the beginning because she has an opportunity for all of us if you wish to participate tonight. Marlene, will you come up? And she's going to talk about the invasion of the southern border. Pauline? Thank you.
What, Delaware?
Very good, very good.
I hope you forgive me because I haven't spoken to a group in a long time.
We're friends.
Originally, I contacted the club.
Hold the mic a little closer. There you go.
Originally, I contacted the club on Monday or Tuesday to set up a teleconference regarding illegal immigration and the border invasion that's currently underway. Yesterday afternoon, I was advised that was not possible due to a karaoke session here. Maybe if I sang it. And maybe you'd all leave if I did. In any event, the speaker for tonight was not able to speak, so here I am. Patriot Action Network is the largest group of patriots, aka Tea Partiers in the United States. I started posting articles and discussions there in October. If I can turn the page. I apologize because
It's okay, we're all family here.
Hey, Dad.
We have Spanish classes later on.
Many of my discussions have been centered on illegal immigration and the administrative misuse of our immigration laws at the current southwest border invasion. Currently, there is a very patriotic member of the Patriot Action Network putting his country and us ahead of himself and his safety. He is on his own dime, paying his own way. He is on the border as we speak, interviewing border Americans as to conditions there. Once or twice a week, he sends me his inputs, which I use to write the discussions, such as the one in the handout that I gave you, or that was provided to you. And another one, Invasion of the Southern Border, ongoing, Texas edition, dinner with JD and family. I posted it last night, and I'd like to read it to you if I might. Dinner was everything you would expect and more. These people work hard, play hard, and dine well. After dinner, JD did tell us about his dream. It was beautiful and very private, about his early days being married to a woman who was every bit his equal and the birth of his first son. After he retired for the night, it was still early, so I checked out the bunkhouse, then came to my truck to type up our recorded conversation for his approval in the morning. When I heard a knock at my window, it was his granddaughter. She said her granddad had known that I didn't exactly get what I wanted from him, and it was fine with him if she answered any questions I might have within reason. I suggested she read my transcript in the morning before reading it to him, and then she could make up her mind to continue or not. The following morning, I watched while she read it to him and saw him nod his head in agreement, and he threw me a salute. His granddaughter led me out to the patio, sat me down, asked me to turn on the recorder and just sit back and relax. Then she started. Granddad was born right here in this house in 1926. He was the middle son, but he was the leader of the pack. He graduated high school when he was 17, joined the service when he turned 18, and landed in Normandy on D-Day. He never talks about anything that happened over there. When people ask, he says, we lost a lot of really fine young men over there, but we won. And that is the same way he feels about our family history. He won't talk about it, but doesn't mind if we do, as long as what we say is what actually happened. His favorite saying is, tell it the way it was, no frills. When he returned home, things were pretty rough. Everybody gave what they could for the war effort, and that left just the bare essentials to live on. I think that was the case across the country, though. The Mexicans took advantage of the fact that most of our men were in the service, and they raided all the ranches and farms along the border, stealing horses and cattle at night, taking farm equipment, breaking into the barns, and then eventually getting brash enough to break into our house, whether we were home or not. They beat up the young boys and dragged the young girls off into the woods and gang raped them, leaving some for dead. The women fought back, but they were no match for them because they came in packs like wild dogs. Several women and young boys were beaten so badly they died within days. When the men came home and found out what happened and what was still going on, they almost beat them to death. They would turn them over to the local sheriff and expected that that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. Over and over, they started to notice that they were catching some of the same ones a second time. Granddad got really mad and went in to see the sheriff and get to the bottom of it. He was told they had to give them medical treatment and then take them back to the border and set them loose. When one of the outriders found the body of one of our neighbor's 12-year-old daughters, naked and brutally beaten so badly that they wouldn't even let her parents see her, Granddad lost it completely and told the sheriff not to expect them to bring them anymore. He would just shoot them on the spot, and he meant it. He was jailed 8 times in 3 years for obstruction of justice. We all suspected that he probably killed a few too over the years, but no one said anything about it. He lost 4 of his ranch hands who were shot while riding and repairing fence during that time. Today things are not near as bad, but we see them crossing our land almost every night. We have to have men set out at night to keep an eye on our stock and our house. And we keep hearing that our borders are safer today than they have been in years. Politicians have no shame or conscience. We need a drastic change, and we need it now. I thanked her, went out to my truck, typed it up, and then took it back to her for approval. She read it, asked if she could keep a copy, then gave me the most friendly and caring hug I believe I have ever received. There was a tear in her eye when she said, "Thank you, and Granddad will be very happy you did this, and maybe others will start loving our country again, and put a stop to this insanity that is coming out of this administration." These 2 days with this family were 2 of the best days of my life. There were many more just like them within driving distance, and I intend to visit as many as possible. It says, life is great. There are 2 others, one of which is in the handout that was provided, and it has the teleconference information in it. The teleconference starts tonight at 8:30. Additional ones that I've written are 2014 Civil War in the U.S. The southern border is a beachhead for the enemy. A lot of the people that are coming through this border are not just Mexicans. They're coming from all those countries that hate us. And that's like when we go to war, we establish a beachhead to get our people in. That's what's coming across the border. There are about 40 more of the discussions that I've written, and hundreds more by others. In closing, I'd like to invite each of you to join Patriot Action Network and add your 2 cents to the fray. Also to invite each of you to the telephone conference at 8:30 tonight. Thank you for listening and for being patriotic Americans. We can take back our country if we really want to.
Good job, Marlene.
Well, I think with that I'm going to introduce Bill Martin. Bill's going to give us a brief, where's Bill? Oh, you coming up, Bill? He's going to explain to us what's going on in Russia.
Nothing much. Right there. Yep, there you go. Just bend down a little, Bill.
Tell me when you can hear me. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Normally Steve does our history lessons, but that's American history, so we're going into European, Asian, Muslim, Tartar, what other groups are there?
Communism 101.
Communism says Soviet Union, so all of these areas are going to be covered in the next 5 to 10 minutes, hopefully quicker. Typed up some things, or printed some things from the BBC to try to get myself up to speed on this subject myself. And I've just lately been blogging about George Gilder. So there's 3 different guys here. Anybody in the room know who George Gilder is? Okay, one. That's good. By the end of 3 minutes, hopefully we'll know about George. But we're going to bring in Kissinger, Henry Kissinger, Billy Joel, and George Gilder in the next 5 minutes. So they don't really connect, but they do connect. And I hope that I can make some nonsense out of sense here and see if it'll work. First thing I want to do is talk about Charlie Rose last night on Channel 13. I call it Channel 13 PBS. Anybody see that? Kissinger was on with Charlie Rose last night. And, you know, normally Rose is a fairly liberal guy, and he asked Kissinger. Kissinger is very lucid in his advanced age. I was really impressed with him. I didn't like him in the 70s, 80s, 90s, but he made a lot of sense last night. Rose asked him about Obama and what he's doing over there, and he asked him specifically about the phone call. Did you hear about the phone call that Putin and Obama had 2 days ago? About a 90-minute call. Supposedly it was an hour and 15 minutes. We won't debate that. But what Kissinger said was that call should never happen. It should never happen for the reason is both of these fellas supposedly in the Russian Federation will say he was elected, but both of these people were elected officials. And Kissinger's opinion is that once a person is elected, their ego expands to form the inside of the balloon of election, which is everybody loves me, I was elected. And Putin was elected earlier, then he was not there for a while, and then he was back again. So he has this, everybody knows Putin's got a pretty good ego. I don't think there's any debate about Obama's ego. And Kissinger's point was that once you have 2 men with the big, or women with a big ego in a room, and they're talking for an hour and a half, their mistakes will be made, especially through a translator. And Statecraft 101 is the 2 leaders never get together unless you know what's going to come out of that room. And this is Kissinger's point. So Obama really made a big blunder here. We both know that, as I heard on the radio earlier this morning, Obama is Acorn and Putin is KGB. So who do you want, Acorn or KGB in the boxing match? To me, there's a distinct disadvantage of our fighter in the ring. Kissinger went on and on about these things, and it made so his statecraft was just impeccable. And if anybody can see a repeat of that or get a transcript of what he said to Charlie Rose, I highly recommend it. The gist of that conversation, just not to beat it as a dog, but there's no room to pull back. When an egotist tells another egotist something, it's like 2 bullies in a yard. Nobody's going to back down. So they always need to have someone to appeal to. Kerry should have been talking to his counterpart on that, or the third in charge, and then it could go up to the level of Putin and Obama. It was a major mistake with Obama. Also, the translations can be very bad, Kissinger said, and that can lead to international incidents, as we've all seen in the past when 2 leaders make mistakes. So let me just read you what the BBC says about Russia and the Ukraine crisis. What is Russia's claim to the Crimea? Its historical links with the peninsula go back to the Catherine the Great era of the 18th century when Russia conquered southern Ukraine and the Crimea, taking them from the Ottoman Empire way back in the 18th century. This jumps to 1954 when Crimea was handed to the Ukraine as a gift by Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev, who was himself a half a Ukrainian. Of course, Ukraine was behind the Iron Curtain. Only 10 years earlier, Joseph Stalin had deported Crimea's Tatar population. Now, the Tatars are basically Mongolians that came back even farther before Catherine the Great, way back in the day. So they're mostly, at this point, when Stalin moves 300,000 of them up to Russia, basically put them in Siberia and they disappeared. The Tatars basically were Muslims, and Stalin dealt with them. He moved them out of the Crimean Peninsula, took it over. The Second World War was there. He needed the port on the Black Sea, warm water port, and this is where Billy Joel will come in a minute, but I'll get to that. Jumping ahead a little bit, the question is there a legal basis for Russia's actions now moving into the Crimea? Under the 1964 Budapest Memorandum, the US, Russia, Ukraine, and the UK agreed not to threaten or use force against territorial integrity of the political independence of the Ukraine. They also pledged never to use economic coercion to subjugate Ukraine to their own interest. Putin obviously is using gas, natural gas, a few other economic things. Germany and France are saying, you know, France is building aircraft carriers for the Russian Federation. A couple of them are going to be produced in the next couple of years and go over there. Germany, of course, uses a lot of natural gas. Britain is the financial center. They have a ton of money from Russia invested. A lot of oligarchs in Russia have their money in Britain. So it's all tied together economically, which is a two-edged sword. You know, we know that in one way it prevents war, and the other way it may spark a conflict if a couple of these people align in different ways. Russia says that its decision to send troops into Ukraine is necessary to protect the Russian citizens. There is an ethnic Russian majority, and mainly it's ethnic Russian because they got rid of the Tartars and the Muslims, they killed them. Stalin moved them into Siberia, the camps, wherever they're gone. There's a remnant of Tartars there, as you'll see in the election that they just had. They just had an election in Crimea, and they elected the Russians. Of course, 60% of the people on the peninsula are Russian now, or Russian background, or hold Russian visas. Russia's Black Sea Fleet has been based there, and the more I read about it, they don't really have a very strong fleet. It's a warm water port. They have to go through Istanbul, down through the Aegean. The other end of this barbell is Syria, where they have their ports in Syria. We all know what happened a few months ago with the Red Line in Syria. Obama said, we got a red line there, we're going to back up the people that are fighting Assad. He's not going to be there 6 months from now. Well, he's still there. Russia backs him up. Russia still has their port on the eastern part of the Mediterranean. Now they have their port in the Black Sea. This is vitally important to Russia. I mean, it's almost like Gitmo in the Caribbean, if you think about it. We have a base there to protect our shipping, our military advancement. So from one way, you have to look at it from Russia's standpoint, that they really need this as a geopolitical area. This has historically been very poor. Southern Russia, they need a warm water port. Now they're building a big bridge that I read that, coming over from there, they're expanding the bridge by 4. They're just going to take it over. There's nothing we or anybody else can do about it. The Ukrainians don't have an army that can match up with the Russians, so we're going to get used to that. Just one last item about Russia, and I'm going to transition to Billy Joel and George Gilder. I hope you got 3 more minutes. Am I okay?
Good.
Am I okay?
Good.
Under the terms of the agreement with the Ukraine, this is going back to 1964, Russia is entitled to have 25,000 troops in the peninsula. And if you get a chance, Google the peninsula tomorrow, the Crimea Peninsula. It is truly 2 entries. There's a northern entry from the Ukraine, there's an eastern entry from Russia. Very simple. There's 2 ways in and out. You block those 2 ways, you cut off everything, you can defend it very easily. Currently there's about 16,000 admitted Russian soldiers on the Crimea in bases. They're supposed to stay on bases. They're distributed through Crimea right now. So they're going to do what they have to do. As far as the possibility of going into the Ukraine, into eastern parts of the Ukraine, which are, again, a lot of Russian visas and a lot of Russian people there, there's a good possibility he may expand. Putin may do what he did in Georgia. He may expand and do as much as he has to do and then pull back. One thing that Kissinger said that was interesting, they had no insignias on the uniforms when they came in. A lot of them were masks. Their identities of the soldiers were they're technically not Russians. Kissinger said it was a double-edged sword. In one way, it's illegal. It's basically they're terrorists. They're not wearing uniforms of a country. But the good thing about it is if some colonel up in St. Petersburg calls a guy in the Crimea and says, pull him out. Pull him out. It's not like it's on Putin if they were Russian soldiers. So there's a little, Kissinger is very esoteric and very nuanced, And, I start to listen to Kissinger more and more, and thank God he's on our side. Unfortunately, Obama's not using Kissinger. He's got John Kerry and formerly Hillary Clinton and a bunch of other people that have nothing to do with statecraft like Kissinger did.
Victoria Newlander.
Victoria, we forgot about Victoria. Yes, John?
I think I heard today, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the Crimean Parliament voted to become part of Russia?
Yeah,
That's correct.
that just came across the TV.
And I believe they're going to have a general election, which the Russians will win because they say 60% of them.
Bill,
Yes,
they voted, but the people that voted were not the actual politicians. The actual politicians were not allowed in there to vote.
Who voted? Who voted, Bill?
They don't know.
Acorn voters.
who voted? I can't, I'm not in correct record. Well, Joe Ellen asked, what is the impact for us? Personally, as a conservative, semi-libertarian, I line up with Rand Paul and Dennis Kucinich on this and a few others. I don't think there's any impact to us. I mean, yeah, we have commercial interests throughout that entire area. I think Syria is a lot bigger problem, frankly, because of the oil for us. The Russian Navy that's there is old and antiquated. It's never going to threaten us. Obama, what's the impact? Why is the USA always impacted by these things? I have no clue. To put John Kerry in there, he's like a third-string tight end. You know, the Giants are 6-10, and they put the third-string tight end in. They have no chance to win the game, and they got a player that can't play.
He's a bench warmer.
That pretty much a bench warmer. That's my opinion. I think we have no interest, and we shouldn't even be talking about it. Sorry, I can't see behind the light.
It's Camille.
Oh, hi, Camille.
Hi. I just want to make a comment. Yes, I agree with you. I don't think we should do anything. However, this is like a marker to the world. It's just another instance of showing how impotent we are and how Obama is just all full of hot air.
The argument, of course, is Benghazi, we did nothing. Syria, we had a red line, we did nothing. And now we're going to do nothing. I mean, yeah, I see the line of logic. I mean, where do you take it? The next thing that comes up, we just have to continue
He
to...
should not have said anything.
Of course.
Well, he did pass an executive order restricting all visas from Russia. That was his red line there, I guess.
What about Hillary?
And I know Hillary made a remark, it's not coming to mind what she said.
She equated him to Hitler.
Oh, yeah, well, there you go. I mean, what do you expect from Hillary Clinton to equate?
Comment, we didn't hear it.
I'm sorry. Joe Ellen said that Hillary had made a comment at equating what's going on, Putin to Hitler, and moving into Germany back in the 40s, or 39, Poland, Germany, moving into France, with the same logic. I mean, this is like talking about the Civil War and what the Cold War. Historians like to draw these strings together, which have nothing to do with one another. The Ukrainians are not Nazis. The Ukrainians are there because they don't want to live under the USSR. I mean, that's why they overthrew the Russian leader that they had.
There's no USSR anymore.
There's no USSR anymore, but we happen to have a former KGB guy who was president, wasn't president, had a puppet, and now is back again. So all of these lines of logic, we could debate them for hours and time. And
we also have a fascist government in Ukraine right now.
we have an illegal government in Ukraine that Putin is saying. Putin says is they're illegal. I don't know where the UN has come down on that. They formed their own parliament. They've put their own people in. Some people would call this a coup. Putin calls it a coup. So I guess it's where you stand on it. I'd like to transition and get, I'm sorry, one more?
Bear in mind what you just said about Mr. Putin and the like. And also, what's your thoughts, bearing this in mind, about Mr. Putin being put up for nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize? That's kind of ironic, don't you think?
He's the same as Obama again.
Yeah, with Obama. Yeah.
That was the 2013 Nobel Peace Prize, and that was based on Syria
But that's
and
the point.
chemical
The point
weapons.
is that he has been put up.
Okay.
And that shows you how little that Nobel Peace Prize is worth.
I agree. I don't think there's a person in the room disagree with you. Okay, let me move on real quick. I just want to, basically, the reason I bring Billy Joel in is, you know, Allentown, the famous song about Allentown, and I was going to read 2 paragraphs about it and then transition into George Gilder. The USSR, the Russian Federation to me is the old school. We have old tanks, we have old armies, we have everything. Allentown, we were talking about in that song. Well, we're living here in Allentown. Let me see if I get the mic right so I get it right. There's not a lot of light up here. For the Pennsylvania we never found. For the promises our teachers gave, if we worked hard, if we behaved. So the graduations hang on the wall, and they never really helped us at all. No, they never taught us what was real. Iron and coke, chromium, steel. And we're living and we're waiting here in Allentown. My point of Allentown, this was a union, anti-union. We all lived through the 70s, the ones of us old enough to remember, and transitioned through Nixon and Ford and Carter and the malaise that we're going through today with the same economic socialist malaise. It started with Nixon. You know, price wage controls right on through. And Billy Joel wrote this in 1982, and people today revision history, they blame it on Reagan in 1982, who's president. Of course, we all know it was terrible, double-digit recession. All of these things happened in 70. But the gist of this is what is real. Iron, coke, chromium, steel. That's what the USSR is based on. Natural gas, natural resource. It's the largest landmass in the world. There's a reason it's the largest landmass in the world. People like Stalin, people like the Tsars, people like going back. They killed the Tartars when they moved in, the Ottoman Empire. They drove them out. They drove halfway across in Germany after World War II. They took Eastern Germany and they took Berlin. They took the Iron Curtain countries. That's what the Russians do. That's what they do. That's their, nothing against the Russian people, but that's why it's a large landmass. They're going to take the Crimea. But it's based on real. What I want to do to jump, can I have 2 more minutes?
Yeah, you have.
Just 2 more minutes. I wanted to jump into where we are today in the U.S. because somebody asked before, how does this affect us? Our economy has just changed totally. I don't think we're based on chromium, steel, iron, and I don't think the Billy Joel analogy works anymore. I think we're the information technology now. And the reason I bring up George Gilder, and one fella knew who George was. George is a big supply sider. Going back to Reagan and before, wrote a lot of books. Recently there's a book out called Knowledge and Power. The subtitle is The Information Theory of Capitalism and How It Is Revolutionizing Our World. And truly this is what's happening. I mean, last week Facebook bought out WhatsApp for $19 billion. And it's all based on information. It's little tweets, it's little digitalized information. And how do we, as an information society, stay in superior position to Russia, who has got this huge landmass, all these natural resources, still based on chromium steel? I mean, this is where the two divide. And I just wanted to read, I had about 5 or 6 quotes. I'm going to read 2 or 3 of them, because I don't want to bore you here. But the first one's about human diversity and free markets. And these are all George Gilder's quotes from this book. And I recommend the book highly. I haven't read it yet, read excerpts, and I read all 28 quotes from it. Enforced by genetics, sexual reproduction, perspective, and experience, the most manifest characteristic of human beings is their diversity. The freer an economy is, the more this human diversity of knowledge and knowledge will be manifested. By contrast, political power originates in the top-down processes. Governments, monopolies, regulators, and elite institutions, all attempting to quell human diversity and impose order. What do we say with Putin? He's trying to impose order. Thus, power always seeks centralization. That's the first quote from Gilder. And what is more centralized than the old USSR? I mean, it collapsed because of centralization. Disequilibrium and disorder over equilibrium and spontaneous order. This is what our information society is based on. From the equilibrium and spontaneous order of Adam Smith and his heirs, from invisible-handed markets and perfect competition, supply and demand and rewards and punishment, all Econ 101 stuff. Anybody that took an economics class, this is what it is. Gilder is pushed to theories of disequilibrium and disorder, and information and noise, and as the keys to understanding economic progress. The primacy of entrepreneurs. Hopefully that's what our country is based on. That's why we have supply side, and it works when it works, and when it's allowed to work. The key force of economic advance is the entrepreneur, who on his own, without governmental cues and expert consultations, or even a defined market, creates new goods, services, business plans, and projects. Economic growth and progress, jobs and welfare, markets and demand all stem from this creativity of the entrepreneur. Population growth and capital accumulation, economic efficiency, and even scientific advances are all less important than entrepreneurial creativity. Failing to see the centrality of entrepreneurial creativity, economists everywhere have counseled governments to attend to the money supply, aggregate demand, consumer confidence, trade imbalances, budget deficits, capital flows, to attend to everything except what matters most, the environment of innovation. Information versus chromium steel. Inventions, entropy, and the supply side. Entrepreneurship is devoted to creation of new goods and services. Creativity is always surprising. It's always new. That is WhatsApp. $19 billion for WhatsApp. Where did that happen a year ago? Where $19 billion out of thin air.
Economists said they extremely overpaid for that. But they were in a
time will tell, Robert. Time will tell.
No, they were in a price war with Microsoft for it.
Time will tell. That is why it cannot be planned or demanded by governments and even by customers. As Steve Jobs put it, explaining his contempt for market surveys, it's really hard to design products by focus groups. A lot of times people don't know what they want until you show it to them. As Henry Ford said many years earlier, if I had listened to my customers, I would have built a faster horse. Inventions in general express entropy. They come from the supply side. All of us are living better lives because of the information technology supply side. All right, let me just go to the last why all this matters. I got about 4 sentences. At the time when conservatives and liberals, libertarians and authoritarians battle in the arena of ideas, information theory offers a redemptive synthesis. The low entropy carriers that conservatives uphold of law, property, family, and morality enable the high entropy, spontaneous creation. Let me read that again. The low entropy carriers that conservatives uphold of law, property, family, and morality enable the high entropy creations of science and entrepreneurship. Information theory tells us that order is not spontaneous. Information is not perfect. Playing fields are not level. Property rights and human rights are not automatic. They must be upheld and fulfilled by culture, religion, and politics. But information theory is also a mandate of liberty, enshrining freedom of choice as its deepest law of entropy and creativity. So keep that frame of mind when you're thinking about Russia, Europe, us. We got a class of civilizations going on. To me, it's just unbelievable. It's happening late in my life of when it's actually happening here. So I hope you can get on my blog or whatever.
Thank you, Bill. That was very educational. So, wow. Let me go like that.
Lower that down, no. Lower the There you go.
Well, the next part, Steve's coming up, so Steve's gonna need it at this time. 'cause
So
Steve's
put it
gonna
all the
give
way
us-
down there.
Steve, you're gonna come up and give it, oh, Dan, then I'll have to do it.
I like the beatnik look.
You want to turn that light off? Robert?
Huh?
Want that light off?
No, it's fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, now the picture's all ruined.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Anyhow, this blonde is driving down the road in a sporty little red car, and she gets pulled over by a blonde police officer. So the police officer's license and registration. She's rifling through her pocketbook there, and she's getting frustrated. She looks up at the police officer. She goes, "Sorry." She goes, what, "Do you know what it looks like?" She goes, "Yeah, it's square and has your picture on it." So she finds her little compact, and she says, "Oh, here it is." The officer takes it, looks at it, and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were a cop." Thank you, everybody. Tip your bartenders. I'll see you next week. Okay. Let's get down to real business here. Last month, is this microphone on?
It's on.
You hear it? Okay, I can't hear myself.
Good.
I hinted to a project that we were doing in New Jersey about trying to unite people. And the book I referenced was Blueprint, How the Democrats Flipped Colorado and Why Republicans Should Be Worried. I encourage you to go get it. I'm not surprised that nobody did. But I did buy it, $11 on Amazon, and read it, and that's what this project is all about. Since January, actually it started before that, but since January, we met in January, 20 groups across the state, north, south, east, and west, met in north of Old Bridge somewhere, a diner. And we had a professional moderator. We left our egos at the door. We put all things behind us that happened before, because we've all been through this. And what we did was we got a select group of people because space was limited, and we decided that we were going to form a unified effort across New Jersey. We met again last month, the same 20 groups, and got down to even more work about unifying ourselves, and based on this Blueprint book. And we're going to have another meeting on Saturday. We've invited there should be another 13 groups coming, for a total of 33 groups across New Jersey. I don't know if you know how important this is.
Meeting where?
We're meeting in New Jersey. We're not telling you where. Just for an example, I'm going to run down a couple of group names, okay? American Citizens Lobbyist Group, Americans for Liberty, Bayshore Tea Party Group, Campaign for Liberty, Central Jersey Rifle and Pistol Club, Conservative Party of New Jersey, Constitution Party, Eagle Forum Education, Libertarian Party, Liberty and Prosperity, Montgomery Tea Party, New Jersey Homeschool Association. These are the type of groups that we're trying to get all focused on this and the same thing at the same time. The goal of the group is to hammer the living crap out of the Democrats. We are not going to attack a single Republican. We want to be able to focus the entire state, every conservative group we can muster, as long as they're really a group, and get them focused on message, the same message at the same time. We will attack the same candidate at the same time, and we will do it statewide, and we will do it with everything we have. It's going to require money, and we're going to ask you to donate money to the PACs. We're going to develop 3 PACs to begin with, political action committees, if you're not familiar with that. And we're going to, hopefully by 2016, we should have well over $500,000. Yes, this is serious stuff, and this is what we're doing, and that's what I'm here to announce. So there you have it. I hope you'll support this new effort. It is called Voice Over New Jersey. Voice Over New Jersey. Hopefully there'll be a press release after this meeting. And there it is. Wish us luck. East Jersey Tea Party is a big part of this. If you look at the Voice Over New Jersey mission statement, except for the first paragraph, it will look very similar, very familiar if you are familiar with our mission statement. Here, let me read it. Our mission is to serve as a conduit for grassroots organizations providing support, information technology, and resources to further assist member groups in advancing the principles embedded in our Constitution and other founding documents. Our vision is to amplify our ability to influence public policy at the state and federal levels, consistent with the three core values of fiscal responsibility, constitutionally limited government, and free market capitalism. That's what we're doing. So far, 33 groups, and we hope to grow from there. So there you have it. Is there any questions before I give the mic back? Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been keeping me very busy over the last 3 months. Thank you, Cabela.
Thanks, Dan. As usual, Dan. Jason, you got a question?
Excellent.
Yeah. As usual, Dan is on top of this, and I'm just going to say one thing. I really don't ever ask the group to fork over the money, but I think this is an endeavor we need to contribute to. We can turn Jersey Republican, we can turn it conservative, but we got to work together. And that is the emphasis of this Voice Over New Jersey. That's the whole thing in a nutshell. We're going to unite, and we're going to unite so that we can be a red state, so that people, instead of moving out, will start moving in, because they'll say, you know what, Jersey's a conservative state. So we got to unite, folks, and we got to do it together and be strong and get out there and do what you can do. I come here early so I can speak to everybody who walks in here, and a lot of the discussion that I hear from everybody is, I want to do more. Everybody here has their own forte. You know what you're best at. Dan is a great comedian.
That's your opinion.
We all have our forte. Find out what it is and utilize it. Utilize it and get out there, be active, do it in your own way. I wrote a letter. Tony Spinola Spinola says, did you hear about the editorial that the Asbury Park Press wrote about conservatives in the Tea Party? I don't buy that rag. I don't buy, the only newspaper I buy now is the New York Post, because I like the Mallard Fillmore comic strip. That's why I buy it.
That's puzzles.
Yeah, the puzzles. But Tony sends me the editorial. I got to my computer right away, and I wrote a letter, and I emailed it to them right away. And it was a good letter. And they said, we'll print your letter, but you got to cut it down to 250 words. They get to write an editorial, but I have to write a very small letter. But I still got my point through. And for whoever didn't read it, again, now remember, they attacked the Tea Party. So I write, regarding your February 17th editorial, GOP moderates are a dying breed, which denounced conservatives as a clown car of right-wing extremists. Must have been that guy we saw at the parade who wrote this. I ask, did New York, I don't put governor because I refuse to give him that title. I wrote, did Cuomo give you his talking points, or did you plagiarize from him? Although you didn't banish us from New Jersey, your editorial was just as dismissive. It demeaned those whose concerns are to repeal the illegal Obamacare laws, who understands that Social Security system is broken, who respects all life and adheres to God's natural laws, who wants a balanced budget, and who believes in a sovereign country with English as its official language. The editorial exhibit the Saul Alinsky rule of picking a target, freezing it, and personalizing it. Bravo. I wrote, they took out the word bravo. Have you ever been to a Tea Party meeting? If not, I challenge you to attend any chapter throughout the state, of which we are many. We are not silent, secretive, or hidden. We are a transparent group of Americans whose only concern is to restore America to the Constitution. You can ridicule us, mock us, and trash us. We're not going away. However, if you possess any sense of professionalism, you'll come from that meeting and apologize to all Americans and confess that you've slandered a good group of people whose only faults are to love and respect their country. Hey, Asbury Park Press, are you here tonight?
Joe Ellen.
Yeah.
Not here yet.
Not here yet. They'll be here at 8:30. Bob.
When I was talking to you on the phone, you told me about this. What you should have done is emailed the conversations to the group of the back and forth conversation you had, so we could have seen what was going on.
Actually, I gave my total letter to Dan. He was going to blast it out. But this was the gist of it. And my point is, don't let him get away with it. Write from your heart. I wrote from my heart. Just make phone calls. Yes, John.
Who did you speak to? Was it Mrs. Robinson? Ms. Robinson?
What's her first name? Maggie or?
I forget her first name. I know I've spoken.
Yeah. I mean, you know, treated me with respect. I treated her with respect. But we know the game they're playing.
All right, but all she did though was ask, or whoever it was, ask you to do was to cut it down to 50 words.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's their thing.
Yeah, I know. But my point is they do that to discourage you, because at one point I might have had 270 words, and she says, we're not going to print it unless you let us revise it. And I said, no, thank you, I'll do it myself. So anyway.
Joe Ellen.
Yes, Bob.
My other question is, we probably have more conservatives reading that paper than liberals. Why? Why are we even wasting our money reading their paper?
Well, like I said, I don't get their paper.
It's like I saw an article on Facebook today. Al Jazeera that was bought out is lucky if they have 5,000 people a day watching their network during prime time.
It's Soros who's keeping that alive.
Well, that's fine. Let him.
Right.
He's going to only piss away so much of his money, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, Robert is talking about Al Jazeera, who might have 5,000 viewers. And we know who backs that up. We know it's George Soros. You know, I understand. I just didn't want that editorial to go unchallenged. I want them to know we're out here. And they're not going to scare us away. And so that's why even though I don't get their paper, I wrote the letter. So, thank you. Okay. Now, here's another way you can be involved. I went down to Toms River today, and I went to the municipal court clerk's office. I am a committee seat person in Point Pleasant Beach. My term is up in April. So I went down there, and I got my application. And once again, she went through and gave me all the rules that I needed to adhere to so I can run on the ticket and be on the ballot. It is so simple, folks. If you want to get on that committee seat, just go, if you're from Ocean County, you go down to Toms River. Denise, where do you go in Monmouth County?
Well, your township.
Right.
Your township, your town clerk.
Right. So I got my petition. She also gave me a chart that tells you what town requires how many signatures. For each committee seat, you have to have a male and a female. We only need, Bill and I, who are running together, we only need 3 signatures. And Bill can sign for me, and I can sign for Bill.
How many do I need?
You only need 2.
1.
1? Okay.
1.
So Dan can sign for himself, and that's it, he's in. But they do suggest strongly you get 10 signatures, which you can do that. But here's an opportunity for you to have some say within your own community. You have to have that notarized. And again, they'll go over everything very clearly for you. And then it has to be filed by March 31st, Dan.
Will they notarize it then and there when you bring it in?
You can do, actually I didn't ask for that, but I'm a notary, so I can notarize here for anybody. You can find a notary. Go to your bank, you can have somebody notarize for you. You just can't notarize for yourself. Who was saying something?
Public library might do it.
Okay.
My library does.
So, it's really quite simple. You can be part of your community and have a say-so in what's going on in your community, in your party, by just becoming a committee seat. Dan.
What does a committee seat do?
Well, I'll give you an example, and Marilyn can attest to this. Marilyn, you're a committee seat, right? No? Okay. When, how many years ago with Vinnie Barella?
This is his 6th or 7th year.
Okay, so about 4 or 5 years ago, Vinnie wanted to run as a Republican, our mayor, and we didn't want him to run as a Republican. So all the committee seats had to get together. We had to have people come before us and interview, and we had to say yay or nay to who was going to be our Republican candidate. So that's what's good about it. As a committee seat, you get to say who's going to be the candidate in your town. It's a good position to have, and I would strongly suggest that if you have that opportunity, go for it. Yes. Can you tell us your name?
Nan Call.
Oh, Nancy. Okay, I can't see.
Yes, I changed the hair. Sorry.
That's good.
Thank you. You're talking about a district county committee person, correct?
Yes,
I just want to clarify. You do not have to have a man and a woman. You get 2.
No.
But you cannot.
No, you have to have a male and a female.
No.
Nancy, I was just down here. It's got to be a male and a female.
It cannot be 2 women or 2 men. That's why they talk about a male and a female, because I am the only district committee woman for my district committee person for my district. For the other one that my community belongs to, there's only a district committee man. It is 2, but only a female and a male. It cannot be 2 of the same gender.
Okay.
And another way, if you want to, many times nobody gets the petition, nobody gets the signatures they need, and there is nothing on the ballot. But the office should be on the ballot, and you write in your name, but make sure that you do it exactly as it is on the election records. For instance, my legal name is not Nancy, it's Ann. I use my middle initial. And you have to spell my last name correctly. Most people don't know, but I know how to do it. And you may well get on just because yours is the only name there. So keep that in mind.
And that is a good point. Even I'm running for my seat, and I've been on this seat now since I moved into town. But another Republican female can run against me. So you can have, just like any election, multiple people running for this one seat. So get out there, do it. Even if you don't win, it's a lot of fun, and you get your feet in the water, your toe in the water there, and you get used to getting involved like this. Yes. And I'm sorry, you have to say your name.
My name is Bob, and when I lived in Bergen County, my wife and I ran for the
county committee. She was the female, I was the male. She always... well, we were talking about transgenders and transvestites. Not that I'm making fun of that, that's not my point. But the thing of it is, you get invited to the parties by the various candidates. We were always sort of inclined to the candidate that had the best party, but that's, you know, that was then, and we could be relaxed about these issues. The other thing is, which told me something about where our marriage was going, although I'm still married. My wife always got one more vote than I did. We never got more than, we never hit more than 10. I mean, these are small group things. And the other, the important power that you have, we appointed the poll watchers for election day. So there's money involved.
Right. But no, Bob makes a good point.
That was up in Bergen County.
And Bob's right, you do get invited to a lot of social events that the peon wouldn't get invited to, so Bob's right. You also get to vote on the county chairman, right? I think you do, yeah.
Yes. When you get to these parties, you're able to talk to candidates.
Right.
So get your red.
Yes. It's a great opportunity. You have till March 31st to get your petition in. So if you're thinking about it, just go down to the county clerk in Toms River, and where's it at, Denise, in Monmouth?
Well, in my town, you go to your township.
You go to the township office in Monmouth, they all have, they should have.
The town clerk.
If not, if you're in Monmouth County, you go to the voting hall of records on Halls Mill Road.
Okay.
Right off of Route 33.
Oh, you're gonna go there?
You can go there. But I know in Freehold, we can go to the Freehold Township and have the papers also.
Okay, just so you know, we're passing the bucket around here. Yes?
Jada Fields, Freehold Township, Freehold Borough.
Hi.
I just want to let you know that one of the most important things that we're going to be doing as committee people coming up the end of a week from this coming Saturday is with the county committee people, in other words, the people from all these municipalities get together and we vote who is going to appear on our ballot for Monmouth County for the U.S. Senate, for Congress, and for our county freeholders, as well as for our municipal positions. One of the jobs of the committee people is to participate in this selection. We also, as he said, we vet the candidates for our own area. And even if you feel like you can't have a lot of time to serve, it's better to have a filled position than to have an empty one that a ringer from another group can jump into. My initial term was as a write-in. And the way you know how to do a write-in, but the way you do it in each district, you can go to the election board and you can find out who we call them the value voters or the 4x4 voters, who are the really sincere voters that voted every election, which means the primary. You'll be surprised how few people vote in the primary. The year that I went as a write-in, there were 8 people who were voters regularly in the primary. 2 had moved out of the district. That left 6. 2 were my husband and me. I knocked on 3 doors, and I got 6 votes, and I was in. Right. Everyone that voted in the primary. So it's sad, but step up and do your part, please.
And you'd be surprised how many of these seats are empty. When I lived in Brick, you couldn't fill a lot of these seats. So look into it. Okay. Steve, you done eating yet? Come on up, Steve.
You share with this young man? No.
It's corned beef and cabbage. What do you want? St. Patrick's Day. Okay, first things first, the quick treasurer's report. We only had one expense for the month. That was our state filing fee. Everything's on the up and up. That was only $25, so not a big deal. And our current balance is $823.47. So we're doing okay. Just one thing, I guess, before when Bill was talking about the situation with Russia and Ukraine, the one area that he was talking about where Hitler had taken over was actually the Sudetenland, which was part of Czechoslovakia. And he basically put in a claim that it was their land, and they had been, I guess basically wrongfully denied it after World War I. And the problem, while I might agree, is we do not necessarily have a physical, military reason to go over there and get involved. But at the same time, our leader is the next Neville Chamberlain. This man accommodates and acquiesces and caves in like butter. Every single time. He's done it in Iraq, and look where they're at now. He's doing it in Afghanistan. Look where we're at now. Look what he did in Syria. Everything he does leads to bad consequences. Our next president, our next leaders, our next generation, we are so behind the eight ball. He is dismantling our military. We do have reasons to be involved. It might not be militarily, but him caving in and just being on the phone with Putin is just bad. So this is going to come back to haunt us, so this is a problem, and that's why we need to be concerned with what's going on in Ukraine. So definitely keep an eye on that. I'm going to let Jason come up first and talk about the events, but I do want to come up and do a brief history, history in a minute.
Good evening, everybody. Just want to give a quick recap of some of the events that we've had recently. This past Sunday, we had the St. Patrick's Day Parade at Belmar. We had a very good showing. Show of hands, who here went? All right, excellent. So we had a good turnout of members that came. All the people that were attending and watching the parade are always excited when we go by. We had all the little flags that we were handing out, and that's always a big success. This coming Sunday, we have the Rumson Parade. What's the details of that?
I will have more information on that tomorrow. I'll call Barbara Gonzalez.
Okay, stay tuned on our website and Facebook for Rumson St. Patrick's Day this Sunday. Again, just a reminder for some of the upcoming events, we have our bowling night this coming Thursday, the third Thursday of the month, which this month will be the 20th. It was fun. It's got a lot of good reviews. Unfortunately, I did not make it, but I will be making it this month. Sorry to rain on your parade this month. So it's going to be at Howell Lanes on Route 9, 6:30. It's going to be $3 per game, $3 for a shoe rental. So just come on. You don't need a reservation. So just show up by 6:30.
Just one comment as far as the bowling. You do not have to be a bowler to come out and have a nice time with us. Chat, have a drink, have a burger, fries. It's a place for us to get together as a group, chat with one another, and have some laughs. And we will have some laughs. We have a good time bowling.
Exactly. Just come out, wear your shirt, buy a pitcher of beer, hang out, get plastered, whatever. Just as long as you have a safe drive home. As long as you have a safe drive or a designated drive. Yes. The 20th, the third Thursday of March, whenever that date is. I believe this is the 20th. So we have that coming up. And I'm going to be arranging the second annual Blue Claws game again for this spring. I'm shooting for probably a late May date. That'll give me time to get it announced for the next meeting and get money collected for during May. And then we'll be able to meet up and have a great evening at the ballpark again. Just stay tuned for more stuff that I'll be working on in the next few weeks. Keep an eye out on Facebook, on the email. If you're on the email list, we'll be putting out more stuff then. If you have any suggestions or recommendations, please do not hesitate to email me. My email address is events@eastjerseyteaparty.com, just like the eastjerseyteaparty.org, just like the regular email address, except it's events. And we'll be putting more stuff together. Do you have a question?
Are we working on the 4th of July?
We will be working on the Jackson Memorial Day Parade, I know that, and we will certainly be opening up ideas or wherever for 4th of July parades as well. If anybody has any suggestions on where good ones are with good visibility, please do not hesitate to contact me or email me or call me. Any other questions regarding events for this year? All right, great. Did you...
Thanks, Jason.
All right, Jason.
Yeah, Jason is the man. Hey, Jason, you know what you should look into? It's a lot of fun. A rodeo. How many of you would go to a rodeo? I do that. Come on, let's do it. Yeehaw. Okay. Getting a little serious here. Dan gave me this, and then we're going to have Steve come back up. There's a movie being showed Monday, March 10th at 7 o'clock at the All Seasons Diner. And March 10th, which is a Monday.
Where is that?
I'm sorry? All Seasons Diner 2 is at 4135 US Highway 9 in Freehold. And this movie is called Honor Diaries. And it's about the violence against women and girls around the world. So this is March 10th, 7 o'clock at the All Seasons Diner 2, which is on Highway 9 in Freehold.
Who's putting it on?
This is from the Freedom Fest USA. Thank you, Dan. Okay, donations are accepted. Bring your, let's see, it says food and drinks available. Okay, Steve?
Thank you very much. Okay, who can tell me what was yesterday?
Hump Day.
Hump Day, that's very good, very good. Ash Wednesday. The date was March 5th. Who knows what happened? 244. No, the Ides of March is not yet. That's next week. That would be Caesar. Quote there. That's March 15th. 244 years ago, yesterday. Okay. The very first bloodshed in the American Revolution was yesterday. Now, it was not the official start of the war. It was actually the anniversary of the Boston Massacre. The Boston Massacre was yesterday, 244 years ago. And why was that really significant? Aside from the fact that we had 5 people that were killed, and this was the first time the colonists had actually clashed physically and led to bloodshed here in the colonies. It was important because we had already gone through a whole bunch of acts we're familiar with. You probably heard of the Stamp Act. It was basically an opportunity for the British to raise some funds. We had just been through the French and Indian War, and obviously it was quite expensive. They had to have their troops over here, overseas. It's a very long trip. A lot of money goes into warfare, period. So they wanted to reimburse themselves and refill their treasuries, and they were still fighting other countries at the time in Europe, which was ongoing as always. So they needed to refill those treasuries. Unfortunately, they did something and they voted on those from without, and we had no say in them. And it was an external vote, so they thought, well, this is where the whole rise of taxation without representation came in, so that chant started. And eventually it was so unpopular they did have to repeal the Stamp Act. But they had gone through some other ones that were known as the Intolerable Acts. One of the worst, of course, was the Quartering Act, and that was where they stuck soldiers in your homes. And they would sit there and you would feed them and you would clothe them and you would basically put them in your house and they were just living and eating at your table. So some of these other ones were eventually repealed over the previous decade, but then there was a new chancellor in town, Charles Champagne Charlie Townsend. And of course he was, as you can guess by his nickname, quite the partier and living high on the hog. Surprise, surprise, another government fat cat, right? So he was living high on the hog and he thought, well, we'll just include them this time and we'll let them vote on it. And he couldn't understand why it wasn't going to be popular, but sure enough, they passed the Townsend Act, and one of those things was another unpopular tax. And this tax was on imported goods, such as paint and glass, paper, lead, and tea. You know where that's going. So a lot of these things were not manufactured here in the colonies, except for tea was grown in some of the southern colonies. It wasn't quite a major cash crop, but it was out there. So after a little bit of time went by, we decided we were going to raise up some, I guess, ruckus about it. And they found out that what was the intent of the law was not only to pay for the war, but it was going to be paying for some of these salaries of these royal officials living here in the colonies. More government fat cats living off, I mean, some things never change, you know? Those people that want to talk about history is not important, this is why it's important. They're going the same cycle we're in now, right? So these government fat cats are living on the hog, and we're paying for it. Eventually, what happens is there's been some hostilities in Boston Harbor. Troops are being quartered in their houses. There's a lot of them in the streets, and things are just kind of getting heated. It's been going on for several months. There's been a few clashes. None of them had really gotten too violent. That particular day, there had been some fights down in the street, got into a little bit of a ruckus and a mob, and then some soldiers standing outside of the custom house were being pelted with rocks and sticks and that sort of thing. And the captain, Thomas Preston, sent some more of his soldiers outside, bayonets fixed, and sent them out into the crowd. The crowd grew. There was more than 50 of them, and they were continuing to throw. It was a snowy day in Boston. Shocking. It's kind of like this winter, right? So we're throwing snowballs and sticks, stones, and a certain private, they believe it was Hugh Montgomery, was hit by a snowball and his firearm discharged. At that point, all of the British soldiers fired into the crowd, and at that point, more than 8 people were wounded, and 3 of them died instantly. 2 more died a little bit later, or the next day. The first one that died, and why this is kind of sort of relevant, was a gentleman by the name of Crispus Attucks. Anybody ever heard of him? Yes. Oh, good, good. Boy, I must be at a Tea Party meeting. Wow, Crispus Attucks. So Crispus Attucks was somebody we would have learned about had we not been snowed out at our last meeting, because we were supposed to do something on Black History, February being Black History Month. Crispus Attucks was actually black. He was a slave, born around 1723. And was there until he was about 23 or 27, and he finally ran away. Ran away from his slave master. He was born to a black father that was taken from Africa and brought to the U.S., or the colonies at that time. His mother was a Natick Indian, and at that point he escaped by sea. He spent the next 20 plus years at sea, coming in and out of Boston Harbor, learning the trades, and plying the ocean. When they were in port, he was a rope maker, and one of the problems was that the British soldiers, when they had nothing else to do and they weren't quartered in your house or they weren't at sea or fighting, used to make extra money on the side by basically taking people's jobs on the docks. And so they weren't really happy about it, so a lot of the sailors were up in arms about it, and Crispus Attucks was there on the dock that day when the riots started. He was in the front of the line, and he was the first one that was shot and killed. So that kind of ties things all together for the Boston Massacre and Black History Month. So our first casualty of the war, prior to the war starting, was actually a black American before we had them. So that's the Boston Massacre.
All right.
I don't know about you all, but I cursed that snowstorm. I was really looking forward to that meeting. Steve and Bill, our 2 educators, we are so appreciative of your input every month, and God blessed us with you 2. So we have about, what time is it? I think.
Time for intermission.
Okay, Bob.
Can I say something?
Absolutely. You want to come up?
About history?
And then Don's not here tonight, so who wants to be our tenor tonight?
She says, take my time. That's bad. I'll take a few minutes. A little bit of history. This is Irish History Month. Sorry. Although President Obama will be covered both in February and March, but that's okay. The difficulty is in Iraq, the difficulty in Ukraine is the difficulty of a small, weaker country beside a much larger country. Ireland itself is divided, it's partitioned by plebiscite. The plebiscite was based on the proposition, you certainly don't want to form a common country with those Catholics who we have been inciting you against for 300 years. You don't want to do that. Wherever the mother of parliaments and democracy and capitalism goes, She seems to leave two in her absence when she leaves. India became India-Pakistan, Cyprus, Turkish and Greek, Palestine, Israel and Palestine, North America, British North America, and the United States. And they tried, because the South was so wimpy in the American Revolution, because they favored the British class system. God, did they ever, with slaves. And they were very weak in the so-called revolution, which was really the Northern War for independence from England. They were on the brink of recognizing the independence of the Confederacy, because when they left the 13 colonies, they were not yet into that situation where they believed two countries behind her. In your lifetime, in the past 20 years, paratroopers were brought out onto the parapets of the city of Derry and fired into a fleeing crowd of civil rights demonstrators, singing "We Shall Overcome." Forensic experts from the New York City Police Department indicated that the 14 males who were all shot in the back frequently had their hands up as they were running because of the trajectory of the bullets. Interesting. This is our strongest ally and the source, England, of so many of the institutions that we have a positive attitude toward. Thank you. A well thought for St. Patrick's Day.
Thanks, Bud. Frank? Somebody spill a drink on Dan, please.
Don't waste the liquor. She didn't say alcohol. Ice cubes. Cold water.
This is my second meeting. It's a pleasure to be here. It's good to be able to speak, and I thank you for the opportunity. Before I get into my little shtick here, I just want to follow up what Bill and Steve had said about the Ukraine. There's one little sidebar that's not being mentioned in our drive-by media or the newspapers or anything else like that. And it dates back to the Clinton era, when Ukraine became a democracy or a semi-democracy. There was a young senator who came up with a proposal or a bill or whatever it was, and his idea was, you know what we got to do with the Ukraine? We have to tell them if they get rid of their army, they destroy all their weapons, they get rid of their nuclear weapons, what we'll do is we'll protect them if anything happens. So they got rid of their guns, their nuclear arsenal, and now Russia attacked them, and the Ukraine has nothing to defend themselves with because this young senator came up with this great idea. Does anybody know who this...
I got you on camera.
Oh, I like to walk around. Does anybody know who this Kenyan socialist ideologue was? Come on, how about Barack Obama? It was his idea. He came up with that great idea for them to get rid of their army and their ammunition and everything else. Anyway, a little sidebar there on the Ukraine. Also, if anybody gets a chance, you have to watch our governor, Chris Christie, at the CPAC convention. He was really good. He was really good. And he actually got a standing ovation by that big conservative crowd. Okay, now my little shtick. I tell a joke like Dan, but I'm terrible at jokes, and I wouldn't get any respect like Henny Youngman says.
No, that's Rodney Dangerfield.
Rodney Dangerfield, just to see if you're listening, that's all. That's all. I got you. Okay, what I'm going to talk about tonight is an event that's going to happen in Washington, D.C. It's going to happen on the 16th of May, 2014. The name of this event is Operation America Spring. This was put together by a retired colonel in the armed services. He's just like everybody else. He was watching what was going on with the expanding government, the attacks on the free market and capitalism and so on. We know what's happening with the DOJ and the IRS, NSA, what happened in Benghazi, and you can go on and on and on. Lois Lerner, Sebelius, the Wicked Witch of the West, Pelosi, and so on. So anyway, we all know what's going on. We all talk about it. We do our emails, we do our tea parties, but nothing ever gets done. So Harry Riley decided to, hey, let's do something. Let's get everybody in the United States to try to get together and have a march on Washington. So on May 16th, 2014, there's going to be a march. We're expecting and we want to see at least 5 to 10 million people there. I was in the first march in the 2009 Tea Party, and we had about 1 million people there, and it was unbelievably great. So this time we want to have 5 to 10 million. Now for everybody, I'm not going to go into what's going on with it. I made a handout, and the handout explains what it's all about, how it's forming, who's responsible, how it's going to be set up, and so on and so forth. Along with that, while we're there at that march, we're also going to talk about getting rid of some of the incumbent congressmen and senators and so on that aren't doing their job. And one thing that is pleasing to me is, and everybody talks about, let's impeach Obama. There's also going to be, and I have it in this package, articles of impeachment for Obama, and that's going to be presented while we're there. And hopefully there'll be 10 million people that will back this. And in the package, I included the articles of impeachment that can be signed and dated by you and sent to your representative in District 3 or District 4 or District 1, wherever you're at. Chris Smith, Runyon, I think Lobiandi is another guy. But you'll see in this package the articles of impeachment. So I'm just here today to let everybody know about Operation Spring. Joellen didn't know about it. Friends I've talked about. Yes.
Any bus organizations, anybody organizing buses? Or?
Well, I know right now I'm planning to go myself, and I'm going to sleep on my truck if I have to. But right now, there's a lot of people, a group in West Virginia are going to get their campsite out so people can sleep overnight. And one of the intentions, if there's 10 million people there, a lot of them have to go back home, but they want to have 1 million people stay there as long as they can and just keep pounding D.C. about what's going on with the government. So as far as buses and so on, that might be the responsibility of the Tea Party. I don't know. I really don't know. I didn't tell my joke yet.
Well, wait a minute. How many people think they would like to go on a bus to go down?
I'm sorry.
It's a Friday.
It's a Friday. It's a great day.
You know what? I'm gonna make a phone call. I know we need about 40 people to get on that bus because I've done these bus trips, as you all know. So if I can get some positive feedback, I'll get a bus for us.
Yeah, I've been on the 2 bus trips, even though I wasn't at the Tea Party here. They were great. You know, you go and you come back.
Marlene and then John.
Somebody had some question here.
Yeah.
No, if anybody's been paying attention to what Operation American Spring is, in addition to what's going on in Washington, they're asking people who can't get to Washington to hold similar rallies in their own state.
That's right. She's saying similar rallies should be also put together by different districts, different states. They're trying to get everybody from the 50th states to come to this thing, and that would be great. What was that?
John, did you have a question?
Are we going to stay?
Well, if we get a bus, I doubt it would be a day trip.
Well, that's why I'm going to take my truck, because I'm going to be staying. All right.
Well, why don't, if anybody's interested, email the East Jersey Tea Party website, and let's see if we can get a good, maybe a bus or 2.
There's also some links on Facebook about it also.
Right.
Okay.
Please pay attention to my handout. There's a lot of good stuff in there. It tells you everything about it, plus the articles of impeachment. Send this to your Chris Smith and Runyon and Lobiando. And I even put the Obama zombie in there, Frank Pallone's address. I don't know if anybody's with him. But And I'd like Dan's group to maybe get rid of Pallone too. That'd be a great thing. Now that I think about it, it'd be great if the group can get together with this OAS march also. Anyway, Reed, yes sir. Yes
Is there
ma'am.
a way to attach this to an email and send it to East New Jersey?
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll get that going.
Will they get a copy of this?
There's an email address and there's a patch that you can put in, send it to them by email. I like a letter signed because it has more effect.
I need that packet sent by email as an attachment.
Yeah, we'll get that, Joan, we'll get it through.
How many knew about American, just before I said anything? Maybe 3 people, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get everybody to know about this so we can make it 5 to 10 million. That would be great. Okay, it was a pleasure. You're not going to hear my joke because it's terrible. And
Anyway, yes. Well, we're going to get the package out. We'll get it out. We'll get it out through our website.
You're going to get it out on email?
Right.
I only made out 20 packages. That's all the time I had for, so we could get them packaged somehow. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Keep coming back. All right, thanks to Joan. Joan recycled and returned the 2, who gave us this last month? The 2 videos, the Gettysburg and the, Bill. Okay, so Bill, it's making its rounds here. So the winning ticket, it's Bill, no. It's 278398.
Oh, I missed it by 1.
398. 398. Who's got it? Bob? All right. So when you're done, we're going to let it make its rounds. Thank you, Bob.
I think I liked my talk on Irish history. I said I think I'm getting these history DVDs to borrow because God liked my talk on Irish history.
Yours to keep.
All right, John and Camille, come on up. Thank you all. I spoke to a few people who next month want to come up and advance their causes. Again, this is your club. You have something you want to talk about, please know that you're welcome. Come on up, John and Camille.
Where's Camille?
She was here.
There she is.
I don't know how I got picked for singing.
Oh, good way.
Everybody up?
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Good night. Hold on, Bob has one announcement.
Quick announcement. Since Joe Pizzullo couldn't make it tonight's meeting, I have got him on tape on First Amendment TV when he was at Ocean County Citizens for Freedom. And I also have a great video that I recorded from West Jersey Tea Party of Ryan Morrow, who's doing things on Islam, on how it's invading the United States. So you can check it out on First Amendment TV.